Hello everyone, and today we're going to be just discussing the balance patch notes here, and I just made a notepad because I kind of just want to quickly go through it. So here's all the units that are on the balance patch: Judge LRK, Dragonbite, Senya, Sage Ball, well not Sage Ball, just regular Ball, Bihu, Huayang, Landy, Midnight Gala, Moon Bunny, Savior, Auden, and Montmorency with the artifacts Chrono Glory and Otherworld Machinery. Now, I'm actually going to start with the artifacts here because there's a pretty huge change here that could affect the way you play things, which is it changed this so that it increases the damage of AoE attacks. And not only that, but if it's not an elite boss or a monster, it now ignores damage sharing effects, which is actually pretty huge. There's a lot of units that can use this in terms of like Cavill or just Kisei indeed, so maybe it'll make it a lot easier for it to kill stuff, and so on and so forth. Chrono Glory actually got a slight buff to how many souls it removes, which makes it a little bit easier to fight things like Freerin. And then we'll go back up. So just Kisei as a whole didn't get too much of a huge change. I think her base speed is now like 119 or so, and they just increased her death break chance, so she's a bit more consistent. I don't think this is going to make her change altogether, but with the addition of Otherworldly, maybe it could be usable, but I don't see it being any different. The barrier on LRK is just increased, so he's a bit more consistent. That's pretty much it. Nothing else really changed it. But it's a really good change to help fight Freerins, I guess. I don't know if this will really change the way you fight her in RTA, because beforehand the Chrono Glory LRK tech was not working. Maybe with this barrier increase plus Chrono Glory buff, it'll make it easier, but we'll have to see. Bride Senya is really dang good now. Her passive now gives you 10 souls, and the buff duration got extended to 3 turns instead of 2, in addition to having 4,000 additional damage, which matches Cascade now. In addition, they changed the soul burn to decreasing skill cooldown, as well as increasing the base damage of this, meaning her S3 is very spammable. And not to mention, she also is just going to protect the backline and herself very, very for a lot longer periods of time, as well as just a 3-turn duration barrier with how big it is kind of insane. And of course, once again, you can spam this S2, which will of course keep giving you 30% CR, which means you can cycle back to your S2 really quickly and do it again, right? So I do think Bride Senya's buff is pretty good. This is for your PvE homies. This won't really change anything else. For Bihu, he lost his defense buff in exchange for F, and I don't see this as really good of a change. I do think the defense buff is better because getting defense is a lot harder than getting effectiveness. On the contrary, the rest of it is better because he is getting more burns, which means more damage for Bihu, and then he's getting a constellation change. Now altogether, I prefer having the extra defense because F is a lot easier to get than defense, but otherwise he should be fine, especially with the frenzy change. And of course his EE is getting changed in order to accommodate for this as well. Huayang is interesting, I would say the least. She needs less attack in order to get to her maximum penetration rate. She now has invasions of damage reduction, and her passive no longer is conditional on the fact that she does not need to be debuffed in order to get increased attack. And then Soul Burn gets you an extra attack with S1, which means you get double damage, double additional damage. I don't know how this is going to play out. You can't get any warrior or effect with evasion on it. I guess you can play her with Riposte set, which makes her go into green units, for instance, maybe Freerint. I think that's pretty much it, though. I really don't know what else you would really want to use this in, because 50% evasion, unfortunately, doesn't. I don't think this is necessarily. Oh wait, this is the better than the damage reduction, but the damage reduction is only on a critical hit, which isn't what everyone does. So maybe the evasion is better. I'm not too sure. I think this character requires testing. It might, because it might fall short, just like on the previous balance patch. Most of the characters actually fall short, so we won't make that assumption. But of course, on Supersonic Kick, at least you have a CR push now, which makes her viable on counter set, or on speed set. She's gonna cycle a lot more quickly now. Landy lost her speed buff for a 10 additional CR and a barrier. The barrier is good because it keeps her alive, especially when she's in stealth. It allows you to buff stack to keep her protected. But losing the speed buff for the team, I'm not too sure how I feel about. When our S3 is being spammed, I guess the 25% is better, but on the contrary, when your S3 is not being spammed, the speed buff is better. It also just means that Landy can get countered more easily in terms of CR reduction, because at least with this, yes, you do lose CR push due to CR reduction, but at least you have the speed buff, which could accommodate for it, while on this side it doesn't. So that also requires a bit of testing. In terms of GALA, GALA is 100% back. They basically changed the soul burn to increase damage instead and increase the amount recovered base. They now changed the passive to increase all attack to all allies except for the caster, but increase the combat readiness, and as well add a combat readiness boost to the caster, meaning GALA can 100% take the turn right after she presses S3. And on the S3, they changed the attack, changed it to ignore damage reduction and ignore damage sharing, making sure she's back. The biggest issue with GALA is when there's mitigation, she can't kill, and when there's like damage reduction, of course she cannot kill. This single-handedly solves both of those issues, bringing GALA way back into the meta. Moonbed Daniel now has skill effect nullifier and a higher combat readiness increased combat over the caster when her passive procs, as well as now she has increased combat readiness by 30% on the S3 and also bigger buff. I don't know how I feel about losing immunity buff, but maybe it will work out because of the increased combat readiness, as well as the skill effect nullifier plus the skill nullifier completely shuts down units like Renak, right? So I do think she's actually going to be pretty good, and she's going to be pretty much hard focused into like supporting, right? Savior Auden's also another interesting one where they basically made it so she's more general use instead of just only into defense dark characters. Her damage increase works generally, and if she kills on S3, she'll also reset her cooldown on her S3. Not to mention that her S3 when it kills now inflicts extinction, and as well as she now also protects herself with S3 when she presses S3. Now she also gives herself invincibility, which makes her a lot more, she can protect herself, right, which beforehand she couldn't. So it's just generally just gonna make her a lot more better of a character. I don't know how much better, but yeah, she also gets 10 soul on S3, and the soul burn now is on the S3 to increase damage dealt, so she might end up straight up one-shotting things on S3, to be honest with you. Last but not least, we have Montmorency here. She is just altogether a better soul weaver. She has decreased cooldowns for herself to allow her to cycle S3 faster, more HP, which makes her a lot better, higher damage reduction to keep her alive, as well as guaranteed chances to dispel debuffs rather than percentage chances, which we had before. And last but not least, increased healing for the team. All in all, Montmorency is a lot better now. She is very good. And that is pretty much it for the balance patch. As a whole, I think it's okay, but maybe everything will play out a lot better than we see, or may play out a lot more worse. We saw from the last balance patch, we saw a lot of units there that we thought were going to be good, like Ran, but the only thing units that walked out of the balance patch was Zio as the winner and APOC Ravi as a close second, but can fall short in some matchups. So this is the reason why it's kind of a little bit hard to rate this balance patch. When I first saw it, I was like, this is kind of trash. Then I reread it, and there are certain things that are actually pretty good. But for the most part, I'm more excited about Saber Auden, Bride Senya, and Gala Lilius, and the rest of the units I'm actually not too sure about. So we have to wait until it comes out to figure it out, but that's the balance patch. And for the most part, I think, honestly, the best unit to walk out of this patch is 100% Gala Lilius, no matter what. Gala Lilius will 100%, when not fighting anyone but Boss Aranka, you should be able to do your job finally, which is great. It means you can play this unit against Nurse Yulha, press S3 and get it off the field. You can press this into Ross, get it off field, and then cycle your team so you can push up your Auden, which can soul burn into Yulha and extinct her, right? So all in all, there's a lot of things here that I honestly don't know how it's going to play out, because there's a lot of changes. Like we have stat changes to Bihu, we have stat changes to Kisei again, we have slight consistency buffs with bigger increase for Crow and Crown of Glory buff. There's a lot of minimal changes and a lot of like huge changes, so I really don't know where everything's going to end up with, but there's nothing that ever got completely reworked yet. So I would say just wait until the buffs come out to make your decision. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.